Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Changemaker20. I want to start by just thanking all of you for spending your afternoon with us. If this is your first time, this is a platform where we get to chat with our subject matter experts in an open forum for all of you to ask questions and speak to them directly. And so if you do have any questions at any time, please leave them down below on our chat, and I'd love to get through them. Today, we have Jill McAbe. Jill is a high-performance business expert. She is the #1 Amazon best-selling author of It's Go Time, the all-in system for unstoppable success in business and life. She is also a highly sought-after business coach whose expertise is in helping people with professional skills or hobbies build successful online coaching businesses that generate passive income. And so, Jill, the last time you were here, we spoke a lot about your ABC decision process and really understanding what goes into making unbiased and great choices. After that lunch and learn, I remember going, oh my goodness, I am an emotional decision maker. And then came existential dread, followed by an hour of reevaluating every decision I've made over the last 6 months. So, Jill, I think it's safe to say you're on to something great with this system. But for the people that weren't here the last time, do you mind just giving them a very quick 5-minute recap?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for a lovely introduction. It's great to be here, and I look forward to having a dialogue with the people who come in. With regards to the quick recap on ABCD, it's a decision-making process that I ended up researching and developing because I found myself deliberating over all these decisions, like, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, and I'd like think about it, and I'd like, unlike you, like you're very emotional, I take forever to make decisions. I'd be very analytical, overthinking it. So what the ABC process is in a nutshell is, first of all, understanding that we tend to make decisions with not enough information, or there's some mistakes to how we make decisions. You pointed out emotionality, and research shows that emotionality actually leads to inferior decisions. If you make a decision while you're emotional, you always want to get that distance. And then I also talked about starting with the right question, not to do things like asking, should I do this or that, or should I or shouldn't I do this? Usually that's not enough information, and that's the kind of thing that holds me back. I'm trying to make decisions analytically, but I'm not collecting enough information. So ABCD is a solution for that. It's A, how do you make better decisions? A, align to what you want. So many times we forget to just kind of go, wait a second, what do I want here, right? Do I want to be healthy? Do I want to be happy? Do I want to spend time with family? If this is about business, what do I want? Like, what do I want? It's amazing how much we forget to ask that question. B is about broadening your options. It's about saying, like, okay, a lot of times we think like, I can do this or this, but oftentimes we haven't forced ourselves to go, okay, can we do both? Like a little bit of both, or all of both, or, and to maybe look for that option that we can't see yet. And so one of the things with B, a question I love is, well, if this was something I couldn't do, if I just couldn't do this thing that's on my mind, what would I do? And that can force us to think outside the box, to use that expression. And then C is just asking us to compare contenders. Try not to make a decision without at least 2 options, and that's the minimum. Try to go for 3, not 3 kind of like one good option and 2 crummy ones, 3 amazing options. So you're like truly going like, wow, I'm choosing between great and great here. And avoid using pros and cons, which are shown not to work. Instead, do something called compare contenders. And that's where you take each of your 3 options, or 2, if that's all you came up with, great options, and compare them to align to what you want. Will this get me what I want? Keep going back to that, what you want. And finally, as you pointed out, detach and decide. Really, take the time to get some emotional distance from your decisions, and you're sure to make better ones. Notice how we often give better advice to our good friends and colleagues because we don't have that emotionality than we can give to ourselves. And if you need time and distance and sleep and some perspective to get on making those better decisions, that's very much a nutshell, but there you go. That's the overview.
And Jill, I remember when you went through this initially, and particularly compare and contend, you talked about really finding the positives of each and every single decision that you make and protecting it as if that all of them are great decisions. Can you go a little bit more into that again?
Sure. I think that I haven't met anyone who's not familiar with the pros and cons method of decision making. And I was surprised as I started digging into the research around decision making that pros and cons are really just like terrible tool for decision making. All it is a way of delaying the decision you are already going to make. There's actually no evidence that it changes your mind at all. You build the pros based on your beliefs, you build the cons based on your beliefs. And so it doesn't really add a lot of data. It helps you to see what you're already thinking. But comparing contenders helps you be more objective. It helps you go, I'm going to make a case to support each and every one of these. So what would have to be true for this to be my best decision? You're just constantly, I was thinking about when to do another program, for example, and I was like, I have a lot of demand right now because of teaching people to do online businesses. And I was thinking yesterday, I need to do another program. People need this, but I work with people very closely. And so aligned to what I want. Well, I want to help people. And I also need to keep my health in mind because I need to keep my health good. So that helped me pick a date for when to start the next one. I don't know if that helps, but I'm thinking not about like, oh, negative, I'll get sick. It's more like, when can I do this and stay healthy? I'm building a positive case.
Yeah, and when you take
Yeah.
all these positive cases, it all comes into full circle with the idea of reinventing yourself. And so, what is that bigger picture of reinventing yourself, and how does it come from making better decisions?
Well, I think that reinventing ourselves is a huge decision, right? Because reinventing ourselves is, do we leave something that we're doing and start something new? Anytime we're bringing something new into our lives, we have to make space for that by not having something in our life that was there. And these are big decisions, and we don't want to reinvent ourselves, on a turntable. We want to know that when we're reinventing ourselves, we're making a great choice for ourselves. And so that's, I think the concept of decision making was to sort of take that time, align to what you want, think about options. Like oftentimes we're reinventing ourselves. We're saying, should I do this other thing or this thing I'm doing? And it's that either or that can leave us with like, well, broaden your options. What are 3 amazing things you could do, right? Force yourself to think of what you really want. What are 3 amazing things that you could do before you make that decision? Then compare, then detach and decide. So, because that's a big decision, and using a decision-making tool such as ABCD can help an important decision like that turn out really well.
And Jill, I know you're working with a lot of different professionals with all these different skill sets. And as
Yeah.
we are really embracing this gig economy and a lot of people are forced to make these decisions, what are some of the more practical choices that some of your clients have made? And maybe that can inspire others to look at things differently also.
Well, I work specifically with people who have talent-based businesses who are either already in one and they haven't been able to figure out how to make it work for them online, or I work with hobbyists who want to take a hobby and create a business online. So from that vantage point, because that's really where I'm thinking, I think for the last 4 or 5 years in my work with entrepreneurs, I have been building in online components. Now with this new situation, I'm really building, I'm showing people the model for online businesses. And I think that as people are thinking about what to do with their businesses, it certainly depends on where they are at. But I think that we're going to see permanent changes in our social behavior. I think this is a major world event, like a world war, like anything. And I'm certainly not an expert historian, although I was fascinated by those topics in school. But I think what we're going to end up seeing is a shift to how we work, and all businesses should probably have some online income streams. And this is an opportunity for everyone to put at least part of their business online so they can keep going in tough times.
Yeah, that's great. And I think if you haven't already taken that step, this whole event is forcing everybody to take that next step. And so, with that being said, though, Jill, given that you coach people with professional skills with talent-based businesses, what about those who might be in a situation where maybe they're a single mom and they have kids and they're now facing the reality of this gig economy? And I'm not asking you what they should do because that's what we learned
Yeah.
as a limited question, but instead, where can these individuals start with becoming a lot more entrepreneurial?
Okay. So it's so the scenario, like someone's like kind of going, where should I start with becoming
Yeah.
entrepreneurial? If you want to start, I think in my experience, the people who are very successful as entrepreneurs take time to get to know themselves first. Because there's no, anyone who's telling you there's an easy business online, honestly, give me their phone number. I'd love to call them and find out what it is, because building a business is building a business. And a lot of times, and I think that it requires a willingness to lean into things through the uncomfortable and get through that. And it's doable. The beautiful part is building a business is very formulaic, but you have to be willing to go through these tough times and these times where it feels like you're putting more effort in. What happens to a lot of people when they don't pick something they're genuinely passionate about is that they don't have the wherewithal to see that through, those hard times through, and then they're like a few disappointing things happen and it's like, oh, maybe I should pick something else. So in my experience, the people who succeed and go the distance are ones that are doing things so deeply ingrained in their heart they couldn't imagine doing something else. And when you're doing that, parts which are going to happen to any business, but if you're just doing it for money because you're like, oh, this should be a good money thing right now, and look, this is just one perspective. There's maybe other people who can teach you how to grab that quick cash. That's not what I know how to do. So that would be my advice, is to really tap into and the other thing is believe that you're good. You know what the other big thing is? You're actually good enough. I'm talking to you. You are good enough. The thing that I see across the board is people going, well, I don't know enough and I'm not expert enough and whatever. Like, you're actually good enough. You know who people want to learn from? Someone just ahead of them. We think that people want to learn from these glitzy superstars, and they're sometimes too far apart. The best teachers are the ones who recently learned. So you might not realize that hobby you picked up last year, it could be sewing, it could be knitting, it could be anything. That could be good enough, and it actually might be the amount of good you need to be. Online, we don't want super duper formed perfect. It scares us. It's intimidating. We want real. So I promise you, if you are 16 years of age or above, you already have a talent you could make a business with online. Go for something you're passionate. Trust that you're good enough, and there's room for everyone. There's room for everyone.
I really like that advice, that there is room for everyone and that someone just really needs to pick up what they're already doing, what they already see a little bit of skill in, and just start teaching, because people want to hear imperfect. I think that's
They
something that's
prefer
very
it.
solid. Yeah, imperfect is something that I think we don't hear enough of. But to kind of hear from someone, as a business coach, as a professional that works with people, I think that's very validating, and I think that's a message that a lot more people need to hear. With that being said, guys, if you have any questions you guys want to ask Jill, definitely leave them down below so we can continue, getting to know you guys better. I do have some in queue, but definitely want to hear from you too. So Jill, going into the leadership aspect of a person in organization who makes, a lot of decisions, and they notice that their teams are worrying a lot, or their teams are very stressed, how do you manage that and navigate through that?
So that actually moves me into another sphere of influence, where I teach, which is navigating leadership. And my background is in leadership, and I would say that brings me to discussions around discussions. So one of the things in leadership is there's really no knowing the way forward right now.
Mm-hmm.
People can say this is what's going to happen, that's going to happen. The truth is nobody knows. Whoever is asking that question, there's some amazing work by Snowden and Boone called A Leadership's Framework for Decision Making. It sounds like Cynefin, but it's Cynefin is how it's pronounced. And that's something for you to look into. And basically it's everyone, let's talk together. And it's kind of like ABCD. And ABCD really does work. You align to what you want. But in a case where there's no best practice, right? Because usually we get to follow best practice and do that, but there's no best practice right now. So the only way to form it is to be very fluid with what's happening. I actually train on this, and Talk Boutique represents me, but I'm also directing you to an article that you can start with. But you want to be able to constantly bring the team together and set your sights on what you want, interact, move forward, and do a lot of constant short-term corrections. How's it going? Are we aligning? Are we aligning? What do we want? Are we aligning? It's very ongoing. That's my answer for that, because it's a wonderful question. It's a bright question, but it also is a deep answer. But that's my fast answer, is you got to build and navigate that quickly with a group.
Mm-hmm. And now going on to the flip side, as a person that may be an employee or a person that just, you're just thinking about your family more than anything. You're glad you're not laid off, and there's just a lot coming in. And so you're someone that's heavily impacted. What is the process to detaching yourself from all these emotions so that you can navigate yourself a lot better, you can make decisions a lot better, and you can be a lot more neutral?
Well, I work a lot with, like, I got really into the neuroscience at one point and how the brain all functions. For me, I think you want to be very careful of how much news you consume and what news you consume.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just coming back to the idea of constructive thinking, to think about like that. I mean, I think it's like the serenity prayer, right? Change the things accept the things I cannot change the things that I cannot accept, and have the wisdom to know the difference. And one thing that, I'll just share what I'm doing. It's not right or wrong. It's just what I'm doing to maintain my own constructive thinking. Is what I'm doing is I'm really trying to limit my exposure to what's going on in the world, to the facts of what's going on in the world. And I'm trying to stay away from conspiracy theories and things that get me down, because I can't go back and change any of the causes of this. This is here, right? This is here, and that's a fact. And countries are reacting as best they can, and that's a fact. So given the facts, how can I be more so knowing the facts is really important to making a good decision about my actions, but also then taking those facts and saying, so knowing these facts, what's the best and most constructive thing I could do for myself, my family, my community? And so that's where I try to stay focused, as opposed to like complaining about the people who are doing, that's the other thing. Instead of focusing our attention on the people whose actions we feel disappointed by, to focus our attention on where your attention goes, that's what grows. So focus your attention on the people who are out there doing things that are right, and really zone in on that. Go, well, that's cool. I really like that. I think that's very constructive, and spend your mental energy there.
Mm-hmm. And maybe, Jill, last question, and very quickly, what can businesses do right now to just keep themselves going and staying ahead amidst what's all going with everything that's going on?
That is such a business specific question. I genuinely think stay focused on outcome. If there's only one thing I could ever say to people, it's remember what you want before you remember what you should do. So sit down, and if you have a business that's not coming back in the next couple of years because of what's happened, maybe it's time to pivot. If you have a business that's like just going to be on hold for a couple of months, I think your actions are going to be very different. But stay focused on where you want to get, and then think about how. I think that's the big thing that I see missing in a lot of conversations.
Mm-hmm. And time honestly flies by whenever we do these, because that is all the time that we had today. And so for everyone that came in, I want to thank you for tuning in for our Changemaker20. And if you guys have any questions that just came up, or you still want to get them answered, definitely send them in our way. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time that we do have Jill. And if you'd like to book Jill for any kind of custom virtual event or for her consulting services, definitely shoot me an email, and I'd love to help get you connected. Jill is offering a discovery call for everybody that was on this call that attended today, that we can send you guys a link with an email. I know you're booked for the next month or so, right?
I have a lot, yeah, but I have opened up some space in my calendar if people are thinking of starting online businesses with talents, or they're online and their businesses aren't working.
So guys, definitely take advantage of that. We'll be sending the link right after this call. And tomorrow, guys, we'll be having Melanie Sadka come in. After discovering the 4 states of capacity, Melanie's become a leading advocate for people and teams needing to better leverage their personal and professional capacities. And she's going to quickly explain a self-diagnostic tool that will deconstruct the 4 states of capacity and how to ultimately optimize yours. And so, guys, I'm really looking forward to that one. Jill, I want to thank you for one more time for being here today. And for everyone at home, take care, stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. Bye, everyone.